HighBridge, a division of Recorded Books, presents The Leavers, a novel by Lisa Coe, read by Emily Wu Zeller. Like the sea, I am recommended by my orphaning. Noisy with telegrams not received, quarrelsome with aliases, intricate with misguided journeys. By my expulsions have I come to love you. Lee Young Lee, The City in Which I Love You. Part 1. Another Boy, Another Planet. 1. The day before Deming Guo saw his mother for the last time, she surprised him at school. A navy blue hat sat low on her forehead, scarf around her neck like a big brown snake. "What are you waiting for, kid? It's cold out." He stood in the doorway of PS33 as she zipped his coat so hard the collar pinched. "Did you get off work early?" It was 4:30, already dark, but she didn't usually leave the nail salon until 6. They spoke, as always, in Fujonese. "Short shift. Michael said you had to stay late to get help on an assignment." Her eyes narrowed behind her glasses, and he couldn't tell if she bought it or not. "Teachers didn't call your mom when you got detention, only gave a form you had to return with a signature, which he forged." Michael, who never got detention, had left after 8th period, and Deming wanted to get back home with him, in front of the television, where, in the safety of a laugh track, he didn't have to worry about letting anyone down. Snow fell like clots of wet laundry. Deming and his mother walked up Jerome Avenue. In the back of a concrete courtyard, 3 older boys were passing a blunt, coats unzipped, wearing neither backpacks nor hats, sweet smoke and slow laughter warming the thin February air. "I don't want you to be like that," she said. "I don't want you to be like me. I didn't even finish 8th grade. What a sweet idea. Not finishing 8th grade. He could barely finish 5th. His teacher said it was an issue of focus, of not applying himself. Yet when he tripped Travis Bopa in math class, Deming had been as shocked as Travis was. "I'll come to your school tomorrow," his mother said. "Talk to your teacher about that assignment." He kept his arm against his mother's, loved the scratchy sound of their jackets rubbing together. She wasn't one of those TV moms, always hugging their kids or watching them with bemused smiles, but insisted on holding his hand when they crossed a busy street. Inside her gloves, her hands were red and scraped, the skin angry and peeling. And every night before she went to sleep, she rubbed a thick lotion onto her fingers and winced. Once he asked if it made them hurt less. She said only for a little while. And he wished there was a special lotion that could make new skin grow. A pair of superpower gloves. Short and blocky, she wore loose jeans. Never had he seen her in a dress. And her voice was so loud that when she called his name, dogs would bark and other kids jerked around. When she saw his last report card, he thought her shouting would set off the car alarms 4 stories below. But her laughter was as loud as her shouting. And there was no better, more gratifying sound than when she slapped her knees and cackled at something silly. She laughed at things that weren't meant to be funny, like TV dramas and the swollen orchestral soundtracks that accompanied them. Or, better yet, at things Deming said. Like when he nailed the way their neighbor Tommy always went, "Not bad, not bad, not bad," when they passed him in the stairwell. An automatic response to a, "Hello, how are you?" that hadn't yet been issued. Or the time she'd ask, flipping through TV stations, "Dancing with the Stars isn't on?" And he had excavated Michael's old paper mobile of the solar system and waltzed with it through the living room as she clapped. It was almost as good as getting cheered on by his friends. When he had lived in Minjiang with his grandfather, Deming's mother had explored New York by herself. There was a restlessness to her, an inability to be still or settled. She jiggled her legs, bounced her knees, cracked her knuckles, twirled her thumbs. She hated being cooped up in the apartment on a sunny day, paced the rooms from wall to wall to wall, a cigarette dangling from her mouth. "Who wants to go for a walk?" she would say. Her boyfriend Leon would tell her to relax. "Sit down." "Sit down? We've been sitting all day!" Deming would want to stay on the couch with Michael, but he couldn't say no to her and they'd go out. No family but each other. He would have her to himself. An ambling walk in the park or along the river, making up stories about who lived in the apartments they saw from the outside. A family named Smith. 5 kids, father dead, mother addicted to bagels. He speculated the day they went to the Upper East Side. "To bagels?" she said. "What flavor bagel?" "Everything bagels," he said, which made her giggle harder, until they were both bent over on Madison Avenue, laughing so hard no sounds were coming out, and his stomach hurt, but he couldn't stop laughing. Old white people giving them stink eye for stopping in the middle of the sidewalk. Deming and his mother loved everything bagels. The sheer balls of it. The New York audacity that a bagel could proclaim to be everything, even if it was only topped with sesame seeds and poppy seeds and salt. A bus lumbered past, spraying slush. The walk sign flashed on. "You know what I did today?" his mother said. "One lady. She had a callus the size of your nose on her heel. I had to scrape all that dead skin off. It took forever. And her tip was shit. You'll never do that, if you're careful." He dreaded this familiar refrain. His mother could curse, but the one time he'd let "motherfucker" bounce out in front of her, loving the way the syllables got meatbally in his mouth. She had slapped his arm and said he was better than that. Now he silently said the word to himself as he walked. 1 syllable per footstep. "Did you think that when I was growing up, a small girl your age, I thought, hey, one day, I'm going to come all the way to New York so I can pick Gao Gao out of a stranger's toe? That was not my plan." Always be prepared, she liked to say. Never rely on anyone else to give you things you could get yourself. She despised laziness, softness, people who were weak. She had few friends, but was true to the ones she had. She could hold a fierce grudge. Would walk an extra 3 blocks to another grocery store because, 2 years ago, a cashier at the one around the corner had smirked at her lousy English. It was lousy, Deming agreed. Take Leon, for instance. He look okay to you? Leon's always okay. His back's screwed up. His shoulders are busted. Men don't work in nail salons. You don't finish school. You end up cutting meat like Leon. Arthritis by the time you're 35. It seemed disloyal to talk like this about Iba Leon, who was so strong he'd do one-arm push-ups for Deming and Michael and their friends. Let them punch him in the gut for kicks. Though Deming stopped short of punching as hard as he could. Do it again, Leon would say. You call that a punch? That's a handshake. Even if Leon wasn't his real father. On this topic, his mother was so tight-lipped that all he knew about the man was that he'd never been around. He made Deming proud. If he could grow up to be like any man, he wanted to be like Leon. Or the guy who played the saxophone in the subway station. surrounded by people as his fingers danced and his chest heaved and the tunnel filled with flashes of purples and oranges. Oh, to be loved like that! Fordham Road was unusually quiet in the snow. Ice covered the sidewalk in front of an abandoned building, a reddish piece of gum clinging to it like a lonely pepperoni atop a frozen pizza. "This winter is never ending," Deming's mother said, and they gripped each other's arms for balance as they made their way across the sidewalk. "Don't you want to get out of here? Go somewhere warm?" "It's warm at home." In their apartment, if they could just get there, the heat was blasting. Some days they even wore t-shirts inside. His mother scowled. "I was the first girl in my village to go to the provincial capital. I made it all the way to New York. I was supposed to travel the world. But then I had you. Then I met Leon. You're my home now." They started up the hill on University Avenue. "We're moving." He stopped in a slush puddle. "What? Where?" "Florida. I got a new job at a restaurant. It's near this Disney World. I'll take you there." She grinned at him like she was expecting a grin back. "Is your bad Leon coming?" She pulled him away from the puddle. "Of course." "What about Michael and Vivian?" "They'll join us later." "When?" "The job starts soon. In a week or two." "A week? I have school." "Since when do you love school so much?" "But I have friends." Travis Bopa had been calling Michael and Deming cockroaches for months, and the impulse to stick a foot out as he lumbered down the aisle was brilliant, spontaneous. The look on Travis's face one of disbelief. The sound of Travis's body going down an oozy plop. Michael and their friends had high-fived him. "Badass, Deming!" Detention had been worth it. They stood in front of the bodega. "You're going to go to a good school. The new job is going to pay good money. We'll live in a quiet town." Her voice was a trumpet. Her words sharp triangles. Deming remembered the years without her. The silent house on 3 Alley with Yigong. And saw a street so quiet he could only hear himself blink. "I'm not going. I'm your mother. You have to go with me." The bodega door slammed shut. Mrs. Johnson, who lived in their building, walked out with 2 plastic bags. "You weren't with me when I was in China," he said. "Yigong was with you then. I was working so I could save money to have you here. It's different now." He removed his hand from hers. "Different how?" "You'll love Florida. You'll have a big house and your own room." "I don't want my own room. I want Michael there." "You've moved before. It wasn't so hard, was it?" The light had changed, but Mrs. Johnson remained on their side of the street, watching them. University Avenue wasn't Chinatown, where they had lived before moving in with Leon in the Bronx. There were no other Fujianese families on their block, and sometimes people looked at them like their language had come out of the drain. Deming answered in English. "I'm not going. Leave me alone." She raised her hand. He jolted back as she lunged forward. Then she hugged him, the snowy front of her jacket brushing against his cheek, his nose pressing into her chest. He could hear her heartbeat through the layers of clothing, thumping and determined. And before he could relax, he forced himself to wriggle out of her arms and race up the block, backpack bumping against his spine. She clomped after him in her plastic boots, hooting as she slid across the sidewalk. They lived in a small apartment in a big building, and Deming's mother wanted a house with more rooms. Wanted quiet. But Deming didn't mind the noise. Like hearing their neighbors argue in English and Spanish and other languages he didn't know. Like the thuds of feet and the scraping back of chairs. Salsa and merengue and hip-hop. Football games and Wheel of Fortune spilling from the bottoms of doors and through ceiling cracks. Radiator pipes clanging along to running toilets. He heard other mothers yelling at other kids. This building contained an entire town. There was no mention of Florida over dinner. Deming and Michael watched George Lopez, followed by Veronica Mars, as Deming's mother folded last week's laundry. Leon was at the slaughterhouse. Night shift. Leon's sister Vivian, Michael's mother, was still at work. Deming lay against one side of the couch, legs stretched out to the middle. Michael on the other side, a mirror image, still recalling Travis Bopa. He went down hard! Michael's heels pounded the cushions. He had it coming to him! What if the rooms were so big in Florida they could no longer hear one another? His mother was rubbing lotion into her hands. "You're my home now," she said. Earlier, he had volunteered to get her cigarettes at the bodega and shoplifted a Milky Way, then gave half to Michael when she wasn't looking. "Badass, Deming!" Michael chomped his half in one bite and looked at Deming with such admiration that Deming knew it would be fine. As long as Michael came with them, as long as he wasn't alone, they could move. His mother wouldn't find out about detention, and he and Michael could make new friends. He pictured beaches, sand, ocean, wearing shorts at Christmas. Late at night, early in the morning, Deming woke to a smack on the mattress across the bedroom. Leon and his mother whispering as Michael snored on his back. "Go fuck yourself," his mother said. The snow-shoveled trucks rolled down the street, scraping the pavement clean. Despite his efforts, he fell back asleep. And when the alarm rang for school, Leon was still sleeping. Michael in the shower, his mother in the kitchen in her work clothes, black pants and black shirt, half-smoked cigarette on the edge of an empty jar. The ash grew soft and long, collapsed. "When are we moving?" The radiator pinged black dots. His mother's hair fuzzed up in a static halo. Her glasses smudged and greasy. "We're not," she said. "Now hurry or you'll be late for school." The day sustained its afterglow following the scrapping of Florida. No more beaches, though. Even when Travis Bopa said, "I'll kill you," in a vampiric accent outside the cafeteria. Although he'd said weirder things to other kids, like, "I'll burn down your building and eat your ears." Travis lacked allies. He had no backup. After school, Deming and Michael walked home together, unlocked the apartment with the keys their mothers had given them, exhumed a block of rice from the refrigerator and a package of cold cuts. Moist pink circles of ham. They were adept at making meals even their friends found disgusting. Later, these meals would be the ones Deming missed the most. Fried rice and salami showered with garlic powder from a big plastic bottle. Instant noodles steeped in ketchup topped with American cheese and Tabasco. They ate on the couch, which took up most of the living room, a slippery beast printed with orange and red flowers that made zippy noises when you attempted to sit and instead slid. It was also Vivian's bed. His mother hated it, but Deming saw worlds in its patterns, stared at the colors until he got cross-eyed, and the flowers took on different shapes. Fish tank, candies, treetops in late October. And he envisioned himself underwater, swimming against the surface of the fabric. "When I manage my own salon, the first thing I'm going to do is get rid of that thing," his mother would say. "You come home one day, it'll be gone." 4 to 8 was the TV dead zone. Talk shows and local news. There was a geometry test tomorrow that Michael didn't need to study for, and Deming wasn't going to study for unless his mother found out about it. He got sleepy thinking about the worksheet they had done in class today, on which he'd scribbled made-up answers next to triangles and other assorted shapes. What is the measure of angle C? 50 hot dogs. When it was 7 and his mother wasn't home, he figured she was working late, that he had been granted a geometry reprieve. Vivian came home before Jeopardy ended, trailed by the scent of ammonia. She sewed at the kitchen table, piecemeal orders from a factory, but lately she had also been cleaning apartments in Riverdale. "Polly's not here? No one's made dinner?" "We had ham," Michael said. "That's not dinner. Deming, your mother was supposed to get food on the way home." "She's at work," Deming said. Vivian opened the refrigerator and shut it. "Fine. I'm taking a shower." When Leon returned, it was 8 o'clock. "Your mother's supposed to be home already. Guess that new boss made her stay late." He bought frozen pizzas for dinner, and the sausage balls resembled boils but were oily and delicious. Deming ate 3 slices. Mama never got bodega pizza. Leon's cell phone rang. He took the call in the hallway, and Deming put away the dishes and waited for him to return. "Was that Mama? Can I talk to her?" "It was her friend Dee Dee." Leon squeezed his phone in his hand like he was wringing a wet towel. "Where's Mama? Are we going to Florida?" "Away for a few days. Visiting friends." "What friends?" "You don't know them." "Where do they live?" "It's late. You should get to sleep." Michael was sitting on their bed. "Where's your mom?" With his glasses off, he looked older and thinner, his stare wide, unfocused. "Leon says she's away for a few days." As Deming got under the blankets, he couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. A week passed and he went to school once. When his mother and Leon had gone to Atlantic City for a night, she had called and reminded him to go to sleep on time. But now he stayed up late, ate M&Ms for breakfast, played hooky with his friend Hung, whose father had died the month before. They watched DVDs in Hung's apartment on Valentine Avenue for so long they fell asleep and woke up and fell asleep again, cranking the volume until the car chases and gunfire soothed the cold horror skittering inside him. Where was Mama? She had no friends to visit. There was nobody to lie to for the following day's detention, to hound him about having a plan. Vivian never checked homework. Michael always did his. Saturday. Again. The tube of hand lotion was inside the bathroom cabinet next to her toothbrush. Tucked into the bristles was a green speck. Vegetable matter she had brushed from a molar. Deming uncapped the lotion, pushed out a glob. A familiar fragrance, antiseptic and floral, socked him in the sinuses, and he rinsed his hands with soap and hot water until the smell faded. He found one of her socks at the foot of the bed, and its partner across the room, lodged against the dresser, and bundled them into the ball shape she preferred. He sat in a corner of the bedroom with a box of her things. Blue jeans, A plastic cat for decorating a cell phone antenna, still sealed in its packaging. A yellow sweater she never wore. Tiny, hard balls of yarn dotting its sleeves. There was a blue button, solid and round, which he stuck in his pocket. Her sneakers, her toothbrush, the purple mug with the chipped rim that she drank tea from, still in the apartment. Though not her keys, not her wallet or handbag. Deming opened the closet. Her coat and winter hat and boots were gone. She had worn them to work that Thursday, but the rest of her clothes still there. He shut the door. She hadn't packed. Maybe she'd been the victim of a crime, like on CSI. And maybe she was dead. Michael drank water from the purple mug and Deming wanted to smack it out of his hands. He didn't want her to be dead. Never, ever. But it seemed preferable, in a fucked up way, to having her leave without a goodbye. The last words he said to her had been, "When are we moving?" If he hadn't gotten detention, if he had left school at the usual time, if he hadn't resisted Florida, if he'd intercepted the fight she had with Leon, she would still be here. Like a detective inspecting the same 5 seconds of surveillance video, he replayed last Wednesday afternoon, walking the blocks from school to home. Again and again, Deming and Mama crossed Fordham Road, waited at the light, slipped on the ice, hugged, Mrs. Johnson forever watching. He zoomed in on the frames, slow-motioned their walk up University, then reversed it so they goose-stepped downhill, cars and buses groaning backwards. He picked apart the words she said, hunting for clues. The way his English teachers made them read poems and spend 20 minutes talking about a sentence. The meaning behind the meaning. The meaning behind her telling him about her life. The meaning of Florida. The meaning of her not coming home. He heard a key in the door and hoped it was her, going, "What, you thought I left you? What do you take me for, kid? Homecoming?" They had watched the TV movie where a mom left her kids at the mall and never came back. And he'd been more entranced by the mall, its sprawling, suburban emptiness. If she came home, he wouldn't play with his food or speak English so fast she couldn't keep up. He would do his homework, wash the dishes, let her kick his ass at whack-a-mole like she'd done at the church carnival in Belmont last summer, where Michael had barfed up cotton candy after riding the octopus. But it wasn't his mother in the door. Only Vivian, shaking slush from her shoes. He ran to her and shouted, "You need to find her! She's in danger!" Vivian put an arm around him, her face round and wide like Leon's. "She's not in danger." She was warm and familiar, but not the right mother. And instead of nail polish and hand lotion, she smelled of sweat and lemon disinfectant. "Is she in Florida?" Vivian bit her lip. "We don't know for sure. We're trying to find out. I'm sure she's okay." Snow melted. Pink buds appeared on the trees. One night, Leon and Vivian spoke in the kitchen, but when Deming walked in, they stopped and looked at each other. That week, Deming and Michael packed away their winter coats and took out their t-shirts. Deming saw his mother's spring jacket in the closet, the one she called her Christmas coat because the green was the color of pine needles, and turned away fast. He apologized to Travis Bopa and hoped that it would set things right, that by sacrificing his pride it would guarantee her safety. "Are you crazy?" Hung said. and Michael looked like Deming had tripped him instead. Travis grunted. Whatever. She stayed gone. The worse he felt.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?